welcome back to my kitchen. Today we're going to be making the chicken and dumplings from the Firefly Cookbook. The ingredients we're going to need are 2 boneless, skinless chicken breasts that I've cut up roughly into 2-inch cubes. The recipe calls for 1 cup of vegetables. I like more vegetables in my chicken and dumplings, so I've opted to add more. And I'll be using 1 ear of corn that I've already cut the niblets off of, 1 small onion, roughly 1 small carrot, 2 ribs of celery, and I have 1 small Aloha sweet pepper here that I've cubed up. We'll also need 4 cups of chicken stock, a pinch of black pepper, a half of a teaspoon of savory, 2 tablespoons of flour, 2 tablespoons of butter, and 1 cup of cold milk. For our biscuits, we're going to need 3 cups of flour, 1 cup of buttermilk, 2 tablespoons of baking powder, and 1 teaspoon of salt. And those are going to be all of our ingredients. So the first thing I'm going to do, actually, is bring in my pot, to which I'm going to go ahead and add in my chicken. Now that my chicken's in the pot, I'm going to go ahead and add in my 4 cups of chicken broth and my savory and black pepper. We're just going to give this a stir, and then I'm going to set this over on the stove and let this cook for 10 minutes. And while we're doing that, we're going to go ahead and start getting our biscuits together. Alright guys, I actually forgot to mention our cubed butter. We're going to need 3/4 cup of cubed cold butter. I left it over in the refrigerator and totally forgot to put it out. So the first thing we're going to do is take our dry ingredients and I'm going to pour those in. That was our baking powder and our salt, and I'm going to combine these. And now I'm going to start adding in my cold butter. And with the pastry blender, I'm going to cut the butter into the flour until it resembles like small coarse crumbs. Alright guys, I think I have the butter well cut in. So I'm just going to knock off the rest of it off my pastry cutter. And we're going to go ahead and add in our buttermilk. And then I'm going to stir this just until it's combined. While I'm mixing this in, I would like to remind you of the Gamers and Geeks playlist that JPEG and I have going on our channels. It's a community-driven playlist made up of you, our friends and YouTube family. If you would like to be a part of it, it's really easy. All you have to do is go out and make a cooking video and then post it to your channel. And once you've done that, just let either JPEG or I know in the comment section of either one of our cooking videos, or if you're a part of our Discord servers, you can let us know over there as well. The only thing we do ask is that you mention the Gamers and Geeks playlist somewhere in your video, as well as leaving a link to it down in the description. And that way we can just continue to support all the fine people that have already contributed to the list. So this is starting to look good. I still have a few little bits of dry in there. So let me get all that incorporated, and then we'll move on to the next step. Alright guys, now that we're over at my stove, in this pot I have our butter melting for our roux, and over in our chicken pot I'm going to go ahead and add in my vegetables, and then we'll stir these around, and then I'm going to cover this back up and allow it to cook for an additional 10 minutes or until our vegetables start to soften up. Oh, that looks incredible already, and it smells really good. I love the smell of savory. And if you didn't have any savory, I think marjoram would work really well in this also. Alright, let's get this covered back up. And then we're going to move on to our roux. While I'm waiting for the last of that butter to melt, I'm going to go ahead and preheat my oven, or start preheating my oven to 350 degrees. And that looks good, so let's go ahead and dump in our flour. I'm going to go ahead and start whisking this together. And I'll just let this flour cook for a couple of minutes, just until we get that raw taste cooked out of it. Now that the flour's been cooking, I'm going to go ahead and start slowly adding in my milk. I'm going to be sure to whisk really well, and I'm pouring it everywhere. There we go. Get all that in there, and then I'm going to whisk it until it starts to thicken up. You want to do this over not a real low heat, but you don't want it on high either. You don't want to accidentally scorch your milk and have to start again. While I'm waiting for this to thicken, I'm going to go ahead and add a pinch of salt into it. And roughly a pinch of black pepper. Alright guys, I'm pretty happy with the consistency of our white sauce, so I'm going to go ahead and turn off my heat. And I'm going to set this off to the side until we're ready to add it into the chicken. Now that our chicken and vegetables are done, I'm going to go ahead and strain them out of my pot and put them into my casserole dish. Now that I have all of our chicken and vegetables in there, I'm going to drizzle our white sauce over the top. Make sure I get it all over it. The next thing I'm going to do is drizzle some of the remainder of our chicken broth that we boiled all the chicken and vegetables in over the top of this. Don't know that I'll get all of that in there. Seems like an awful lot. Where did I put my... I'm going to nestle that broth down in there. Just give it a little squidge around so that white sauce will slowly melt into it and combine to make it all nice and thick as it cooks in the oven. I think that's good. And while I do still have a little bit in there, we still have to put our biscuits on top, so I think I'm going to stop there. The next thing we need to do is top it with our biscuits, and I'm just going to drop these in pieces just across the top until I get the whole entire top covered. Alright, let's get the last little bit of our dough on. I think I'll put a little bit right there and maybe a little bit more there. And I think that looks good. Alright guys, I'm going to pop this into a 350 degree oven for about 35 minutes until the broth is nice and bubbly and our biscuits are brown and cooked through. So I'll see you once they're out of the oven. Our chicken and dumplings are out of the oven. I've gone ahead and let them cool down for about 10 minutes just so they're not screaming hot when we try it. So let's dig in, give it a bite, and see what we think about it. Overall, I do like this dish, but it really needs a few things. It needs some more seasoning. That half teaspoon of savory leaves just was not enough to flavor the dish all the way through. I probably would have split it between a half of a teaspoon of savory and a half of a teaspoon of marjoram just to kind of boost that flavor a little bit. I like the vegetables I chose, and you know, those are customizable and up to you. The biscuits are really good. They're a very good buttermilk biscuit. I don't know, for me when I make chicken and dumplings, I like to add a little bit of poultry seasoning as well as some parsley into my biscuits just to help boost the flavor and give them, I don't know, another layer of seasoning. Definitely needs a little bit more salt, but overall, yeah, I would definitely recommend that you give this one a try. Just know that you may want to tweak it a little bit more for your personal taste. Alright guys, well that's going to be it for me for the day. If you guys have enjoyed this video, leave me a comment down below. If you guys tried this recipe out, let me know how it turned out for you. Remember to check out the Gamers and Geeks playlist as well as my other Firefly cooking videos. I'll leave links down in the description to them. And as always, thank y'all so very much for joining me today. I'm your Vault Girl. I hope you guys have enjoyed, and I hope I'll see you in the next one.